so I came from Monterrey, Mexico. I was born and raised there, lived there for 14 years, and then moved to the States when I was 14, moved to San Antonio. And I've been all over Texas, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas. My educational background, I actually talked a little bit about my family. I come from a family of civil engineers, couple civil engineers and a couple industrial engineers. But it's my family is all about mathematics and all of that. So since I was little, I knew I wanted a career in something that had to do with math, and the route that was paid for me was the civil engineer route. My uncle owns a construction company, so it was just kind of like what I thought my career aspirations were. It was civil engineer. So I actually studied civil engineering at UT Austin. I graduated from UT Austin in 2015. And I worked for a construction company as a project manager for 3 years in Austin. And then I kind of figured out that was not my long-term plan. I didn't want to be just like a project manager. I wanted to do something more technical and technology oriented, just understanding where the world is going as far as technology, right? Everything is dependent on computers and technology. So I was like, I don't want to be doing this construction business for forever. So I decided to pivot. And at that time, I actually met my soon-to-be wife, and she lived in Dallas. I lived in Austin, so I was commuting to Dallas. And I knew I wanted to change careers to something in the tech industry, software development. So I started looking at different career paths, and I actually looked into data science, and I was like, okay, this seems like something that's up and growing, and I could fit into this really well. So I started taking community college courses in Austin after work and on weekends. So I took the regular discrete mathematics and then programming languages, Python, C++. So I took some courses. But then I decided that the what would you call it? Like the university kind of degree path that I was kind of headed for was not the most convenient for maybe I was like 27 at that time, 28. It was not very convenient because it was going to take me years and years to kind of gain the skill set. So I decided that I would look into something more of like a boot camp. And I found a couple, but again, my soon-to-be wife was in Dallas, so I was like, and I was coming up here every weekend. So I was like, why not try to find something in Dallas that's on weekends? So I started looking at that. I definitely, I don't want to get into all the other questions, but to make the story short, and then we'll talk about the details later, I found Divergence, and I interviewed on it, and I just thought it was a great fit, so I decided to enter the data science program. So I was coming from Austin to Dallas every weekend, and I was taking the weekend course for data science. So my experience as a learner at Divergence was great. I think what I enjoyed the most was, especially coming from like a big university like UT, where you have courses with 200 people, where it's hard to make a connection with the professor and all that. The great thing about Divergence was having that one-on-one contact with each and every teacher. The classes were anywhere from 6 to 10 people on a given weekend, so that was great. So the camaraderie between like the students was great. I'm still good friends with a couple of the other people that took the course, and then just the knowledge of the professors was always a super big pro. I really enjoyed the fact that we had different professors for different areas. So we studied Power BI, and we studied SQL, and we studied AWS. And for each different area, there's different expertises, right? So it was good to see that there were different people giving the course instead of trying to have only one professor teach you the whole spectrum of subjects. So that was great. So my biggest takeaway from the training and taking a boot camp in data science, I mean, it's hard to choose one, but one of the biggest ones is just the depth of a field, right? So there's like a ton of different areas that you can go into within data science. Again, we studied Power BI, so you can be a data visualization guy. We studied AWS, so you can go into IT. We studied SQL, so you can be a data engineer. So there's a ton of like different paths that you can take. And it's not always the easiest thing to navigate once you come out of the academy. Is trying to like find a way, like, what am I going to do now? Because of all the fields that are within data science. But the fact that we studied so many subjects does give you like an insight into what you like and what areas you will be good at. So in my case, like, I understood that I was good with data visualizations. I was really good with Power BI, but in the long run, I did want to become a machine learning engineer. And just having taken the course, that was my biggest takeaway. Like, hey, this is what you can do in this industry, and this is what you're good at. So that was the biggest takeaway. So challenges as a learner at Divergence is, I think one of the big ones is just it being a boot camp and being super streamlined and intense as far as workload. It's just that, right? Like finding time to get stuff done, trying to play catch up when you don't understand something. But all in all, at Divergence, we had really good resources, and the teachers were always available. So that was great. Some of the resources at Divergence that were great. First, I just want to talk about the teachers again. They were always available, and any questions that you had, they would answer, or they would find the way to get them answered for you. We did get a couple of books also, just from being in the course, so those are really helpful. I use them to date for my current job. So those are some good resources. And then Vish was great when it came to placing me with a job. So that was a great experience. I was going to the academy like during the weekdays, even though I didn't have class. I was going there to kind of focus and hone in my practice. So while being there, some opportunities came up, and Vish was very helpful in setting me up with an interview with Susan G. Komen, who I'm currently employed with. So that was great. That was a great resource to have, and he was great. He really helped out on the interview process and walked me through it. And even post hiring, the Divergence still helped me if I had any questions, because of course I was new to this industry. I definitely did not know what I was getting into, like anyone going into their first job. And having Shravan and Vish and other Divergence instructors there for me if I had any questions on different topics like SQL, how to work on SQL Server and all that, it was just invaluable. So I have been able to use my knowledge that I gained from Divergence in my current work. So again, I work for Susan G. Komen as a data visualization engineer, and most of the data that we have lives in SQL Server, and then I use Power BI as a tool to visualize that, to transform the data and to visualize the data. So, and all of that I learned at Divergence, right? Well, The basics of that I learned at Divergence. I've been learning a lot more through the past year just by being in a job that requires more knowledge. But everything that I learned as far as SQL Server and Power BI at Divergence, I have been using every day. And then again, on the side, I'm trying to, excuse me, I'm trying to hone in my skills as a machine learning engineer, and of course, all the resources that we got from Divergence, I've been using those to keep learning and keep applying everything that Sravan taught us about machine learning into my side projects and stuff. So a quick overview of like how a project goes would be, I go to one of our stakeholders. So at Susan G. Komen, we have different areas, right? We have like a mission team and a race walk team in different areas of the company. So the race walk team, basically, they handle all of our nonprofit revenue or fundraising races that you guys sign up for. So we had a big hole when it came to reporting for that. So it was hard to tell like how much money we were making. It was hard to compare year over year because the races were on different days. There was a lot of stuff that was missing in our reporting for races, walks, events. So the first step in trying to fix that is me reaching out to the stakeholder. So the manager, the race walk managers, hey, what are your reporting needs? What do you need? And they're like, okay, we'd like to have an insight into this, insights into that. All their needs are taken down and jotted down. So after that meeting, then I go over to find the data. So where is our race walk data? Okay, so it's stored in SQL Server. Okay, let me write some queries so that I can, first of all, let me explore the data that's in there. So I write some queries to explore what's happening. Then we also have data stored on a website called Convio, which is they handle your revenue and stuff and registrations for events. So I have data living in SQL. I have data living on a server within Convio. So after that, after finding where all my data sources are, is okay, now pull them all into the Power BI tool and transform the data, right? So if you have some, look at the data, look for null values, how are you going to replace those? Are you going to fix punctualization, all that stuff, create different columns for additional statistics. So you do all the data transformation in Power BI, and then I create my data model. So I basically connect all the sources together. So the SQL Server data and the Convio data, you have to model it. So you connect it by you create a event summary table and then connect that to your data sources. And then once I have the data model built, I can build measures on top of that. So on Power BI, you can build different statistical measures to find out more information on your data. So to gather more insights. So you build your measures after building the model, and then after you build your measures, then you just build the visualizations and you deploy the report to the Power BI website, and then people consume it from there. So that's kind of like how a typical project goes. And again, a lot of that stuff I learned at Divergence, so it was a great learning experience. And then on a day-to-day basis, what I basically do is I build reports. So I have multiple reports on the works. So in the pipeline, so I just work off that pipeline, build some reports. People have questions about the data, I answer questions. I do a lot of ad hoc data analysis. So if somebody has a question like, hey, how many people have donated in the last 4 years, and how many of those are whatever ultra Democrats, which we have like some sort of parameters that we know what people are. So okay, so find out how many people are ultra Democrats that have donated over $1,000 in the last 4 years. So I just go into SQL and run a query, and then answer that. So there's a lot of ad hoc data analysis and a lot of most of my work is just Power BI reporting. for new learners coming into the data science immersive course, I mean, one of the biggest pointers that I would give is that just keep an open mind of all the possibilities that you can kind of reach out to with this industry. You can become so many things. So don't get overwhelmed with all the different avenues that you can take. Try to find what you're good at and what you enjoy, and keep working on it. Because the thing with any technology job is that you're never gonna like be done learning, and that's one of the things. As a civil engineer, having that background, civil engineering doesn't change, right? So it's just physics. So it never changes. Once you know it, and then you can keep learning about different things. But it's not like the technology world where the technologies change so quickly, and if you don't keep up, then you're gonna fall behind. So it's always you just have to enjoy it and keep learning, and yeah, just enjoy the ride. It's fun.